The NAKBA continues to this day. The catastrophe never ended. We were reminded of this truth just this week with the targeted murder of the internationally renowned journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was deliberately shot to death by an Israeli soldier in broad daylight on the 11th of May. And by murdering a Christian American woman and then trying to obfuscate the truth and then attacking her funeral procession, Israel is proving by their own actions that they will target anyone who stands in their way of continuing and extending their occupation. Basically, the Nakba has never ended.
The government of Great Britain, once the First World War was over, they started discussing and studying the ability to basically move the Jewish population from Europe into Palestine. So it was not a movement of Europe. It was not a situation of refugees moving into another country. Rather, it was a colonial project to cancel one culture, remove one culture, one structure in favor of another. Israel announced its establishment on the dead bodies of the Palestinians, and that was not a metaphor. That was literally the case. It was like the flag was waving in the villages where people were murdered, where houses were burned. There have been many studies that documented what happened. 60% of the Palestinian population were forced out of Palestine. Close to 500, a bit less, 500 cities and villages were partially or totally destroyed during this war. Or I'm not sure if we could even call it a war, because it was an extremely one-sided military operation. They wanted the land of Palestine, but there was one problem, that Palestinians exist on this land. So what to do? There had to be a process of unmaking of Palestine through forcing out the population of Palestine, and this happened in the late 1940s. Then some of these populations will survive, unfortunately to them. So what to do with the surviving population, the surviving Palestinians? There has to be another project of subjugation for these people, to make circumstances of living life conditions unbearable, where they would have to think of only one option: to leave, to find another place to survive. Because yes, you might not be killed, but you don't have the means to live.
You just know how to break our happiness, how to destroy our happiness and our lives. Holy month of Ramadan, Palestinians started gathering in Bab al-Amud area in occupied Jerusalem. And then once they gathered to celebrate and to welcome this month, Israel occupation enhanced their groups, enhanced their forces in the place. And this led to a breaking out confrontations that extended to Bab al-Sahra. Actually, from the beginning till the end of Ramadan, the people they taste the happiness, the joy of this month, because all the time they just fight the Israel occupation.
There are 4,000 housing unit project resident for settlements that is being signed off, or has been signed off a few weeks ago to go through. We have lands that have been lived in for hundreds of years that are losing their houses, that are being kicked off of their own lands under pretext of not having permits, while those houses have been older than the so-called Israeli government. So it's not a matter of religion, and never was. Nobody is arguing who's most important. Is it Joseph or Muhammad, peace be upon him? It's not the issue. The issue is that there are people living in their land who are not being allowed to do so.
In order to fend themselves off, sometimes this idea of interfaith actually comes along. And interfaith within the UK has actually been used as a tool for promoting Zionism within the UK. So I think it would be really good for everyone to be able to work together from across different groups, different ideologies, different kind of perspectives, as long as we are looking at making sure that this idea of having peace is fundamentally underpinned by the concept of justice and working towards justice.
How do Palestinians want to see the Nakba ending?
I find such a question quite offensive. Can we just go to the Ukrainians right now and ask them, what is your intention when it comes to Russia? Do you want to destroy Russia? What are you trying to do? Palestinians are victims to what happened to them. Palestinians did not choose the Zionist project to be made in Palestine. Palestinians did not choose the Nakba. Palestinians did not choose that Palestine will fall under the rule of the government of Great Britain. That was not by choice. I personally believe that the only solution would be to go back to the original Palestinian demand: a state for all its citizens, a state for everyone on this land. This is my own personal opinion, but I do have to emphasize that sometimes this question is posed with a certain intention to keep the prisoner behind the bars.
As a Palestinian, I want to say that the Nakba won't end as long as the Israeli occupation is still occupying Palestine. And
mid-March this year, there was a new project that aimed to internally displace 1,000 Palestinians from a land called Misafir Yatta, who lived, it's just happening in broad daylight. And whenever, this just highlights how continuous Nakba is, and how people just, if you don't hear about it, it's not old news, it's not something, it's just happening as we speak. 1,000 people being displaced, the largest amount of displacement since the Nakba. So it's happening now, and it's being signed off on. And just let that just sink in.
I mean, the truly support of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause, and this means a lot to us, actually. So I really thank you for your efforts here and your endless efforts you do to this cause. Thank you so much for giving me for the second time this a chance. I really appreciate this.